morning. Welcome in SimWorld today here on this April 18th audio-only edition. Probably saving everybody the glimpse at Rick and his silk scarf this Thursday morning. Rick, good morning. How you doing?
Hey, man, ladies love Rick Blaze, and folks love the silk scarves, grandmothers included. I'm happy to be here. It's Thursday. Let's get to it.
Pair of big games that we're touching on tonight or rather last night in SimWorld BA. Sixers take down the Heat. They rally from a double-digit halftime deficit to snag the 7 seed. A lot happened in this one, Rick. They fall down early. Joel not playing well at all. No one really played well at all in this one. Jimmy Butler walks out with a potential MCL injury. With all that, what's your takeaway here? Sixers 105, Heat 104.
Well, Sixers got the dub, right? I feel like I talk about the Sixers every time I'm on here, which is a sort of pseudo, unfortunately. But they got the dub. It's playoff time. It's unfortunate for Miami Heat. I feel like they've been kind of wading in the water this whole season. And then we got to figure out what's going on with this Jimmy Butler situation, right? But that's never good news, especially Jimmy Butler is now in his 30s. So, they're coming back from injuries a lot quicker, but Father Time is undefeated. But the Sixers are ready to make a run. Again, I say that with a question mark because I'm not a trunk believer in those guys, or some others are. But it's the East, and I think in the East, anybody has a shot, sort of.
Yeah, so they now are matching up with the New York Knicks for the 2-7 matchup. To stay on the Sixers, I think this is a decent matchup for Philadelphia. This is all under the assumption you can keep Joel on the floor, because if he's not there, then obviously this is not the same Philadelphia 76ers team, and it's the reason they're in there. But you look at it right now, they finished the season with 47 wins. Only 3 games back of New York. Like, to be 2-7 and that difference be 3 games, I think this is wide open. So I don't think this is your typical 2-7 matchup in terms of skill set. I think this is a good matchup for Philadelphia. I think it's a better matchup than if you're going to get out of the play-in. Obviously, you'd rather play New York. It's going to be challenging for the Knicks to slow down Embiid if he's playing at his best possible. And that's such a huge caveat. But I think this is a really good Sixers team. I've said it from the beginning. I was on the fence last night with how that game ended. If I thought that, maybe this was the end of my supporting Joel Embiid train, he brought me back in, not necessarily convincingly, but I think this is a dangerous team. They've got a lot of nice pieces. Maxey and Embiid are 2 of the best 1-2 combos in the conference. And as good as the Knicks have been, this is still a team that's kind of reliant on a single point guard, and if Brunson struggles at all, they're going to be in trouble.
I agree. The Knicks going to have to muck it up, right? They don't have an answer per se for Embiid. Most teams don't, so their focus is going to have to be everywhere else. Embiid goes crazy, because we know Embiid is the Batman for the team, but he does have to have a solid Robin every night, especially because on any given night, like you said about Embiid, we don't know from day to day if he's going to finish a game. So if I'm the Knicks, then my focus is on everyone else. I have to let Embiid get his. He can average 40 in the series, but I need to clamp down everyone else, and that's the only chance New York has. They have a shot. They didn't get the number 2 seed for no reason. They didn't make it for no reason. They have a shot, but Embiid's going to be a problem. A top tier Embiid is a problem for most teams. Period.
Yeah, like you said, we shouldn't be walking in saying the Knicks can't win the series. It's just that this is not your typical 7 seed, and this is not your typical Eastern Conference. I think if Miami had walked out of there with a win and clinched the 7 seed, I would be singing a much different tune, just because, like you said, and we'll get to Miami in a second, just how bad of a regular season they've had. But they're moving on to have to face Chicago, but it's going to be a good matchup. I think that might be one of the Eastern Conference is littered with really great matchups, both from a storyline and skill set perspective. On the other side of the coin, Miami, this is just, I think, a continuation of the team they've been all season. There was such little consistency with them. They were good, but they weren't great. They would have stretches where you thought they were turning around. Their secondary pieces behind Jimmy Butler just never became more than oh, that was a nice night. And that's the frustrating part of this Miami team where you want to believe they can flip the switch, but the switch just doesn't seem to be lighting up the bulb in the same way.
Yeah, the problem with Miami is they've been trying to find their Robin to Jimmy Butler's Batman, and they haven't found any. They found some part-time Robins. They haven't found a consistent guy that wanted the job full time. They haven't found a full-time role for the position. They just been filling the position in with a bunch of floaters and a bunch of interns. So, and now with the situation with Jimmy Butler's injury, now you're looking at this team, which was already on life support as far as making it in. Now you're looking at their opportunity as being dwindled down to dust particles if Jimmy Butler is not 100% coming into this thing. So it's scary times for Miami Heat, not in a good way.
No, and if he is unable to make that push, if Jimmy Butler can't make it back into that game on Friday, which we'll get to, that's a challenge because you're right. There's just Bam Adebayo has never proven to be the type of guy that can go out and be elite. He's good. He's Draymond Green extra, right? He's a better scoring Draymond Green, but he's never the type of lean on him heavily. Tyler Hero, for all that we love his 20-point, 40% shooting from deep, he's never been a tent-pole guy. Terry Rozier is a spark plug, but he's nothing more. It's just not a team that you look at and say, yep, I can believe in every other piece of this roster. Credit to them. They've tried. They've missed. They haven't had the assets to be able to go get stars like Damian Lillard or Donovan Mitchell. But this is where the Heat lie now as we turn in. And they're going to face the Chicago Bulls, who took down the Atlanta Hawks. Huge night from Kobe White. This is similar. I think Miami and Chicago are very similar. Great top end of the roster. You like the name brand of each group, each star player for each, whether it's DeMar DeRozan or Jimmy Butler. Those types of guys feel like they can carry it, but the rest of the roster is sporadic. They're inconsistent. They're borderline disappointing in Miami, well beyond the line of disappointing for Chicago. And now one of them is going to go in as an 8 seed to face Boston Celtics.
Yeah, and I'm going to say this. Both of those teams, especially both of those teams, you're talking about a team that's probably needs to blow it up and rebuild. I think Miami. I think Miami's on that timeline now. Of course, you didn't want to say that as Jimmy Butler's in his prime, but again, he's on the other side of it at this point, looking like right. So the hourglass is winding down. So I think it's time for both those teams. Ironically, that you mentioned, they're probably in rebuild mode. I just hope they accept it sooner than later.
Yeah, the Bulls could have been rebuilding this entire time, yet they've ignorantly kept this roster together, and now they're going to lose likely DeMar DeRozan for nothing as he's a free agent. They've found fool's gold, not fool gold. They've stumbled upon gold with Kobe White, who was relegated to bench minutes, and he goes off for 42 last night to keep them alive. And that's really the only reason that Chicago is advancing is because Kobe White has made this superhuman leap that nobody saw coming and kind of been written off. I mean, the contract he signed this summer was like I think it was $11 million annually, like a 3 for 40, something like that. That's not the guy you are turning to. You don't turn to an $11 million player in a win or go home game and say, get us 42 and walk us out of here. But that's Chicago. And we'll get to them tomorrow, Chicago and Miami. So I want to do a swan song for the Atlanta Hawks. I know that we've talked about, do they trade one of Trae Young or DeJounte Murray? But this is the era of Trae Young, okay? We're going to go back to 2020, 2021 season because the 3 years prior to that were nothing. But 2020, 2021, they win 41 games and they make the conference finals in a conference semifinals. That's the infamous Ben Simmons doesn't dunk on Trae Young. That is the most fraudulent conference finals trip. That's the most fraudulent. Come within 2 wins of a NBA or a SWBA finals. That is just, it doesn't count. People want to say that, well, Trae Young has made a conference finals. Technically, sure, that team was awful. Following season, they win 43 games. 5 games, they're bumped by the Heat in the first round. And then last season, they're 500. They lose in 6 games to the Celtics, where the Celtics were playing with their food at the end and kind of foretold some of the struggles they'd get against Miami. And then this season, 36 wins. That's the Trae Young era. Never more than 43 wins. And outside of one, like I said, fraudulent trip, they have won 0 playoff series the last 3 years. To me, that tells me Trae Young is not the answer, and what this team is not built around Trae Young in the future.
That's a bold statement, Marsh. I see your points for why you would feel that way. I'm sure I can say you make points for the latter. I'm not. Um, I mean that's your franchise face. So are you saying you ready to throw away your franchise face and start? I I
Yes.
like DeJounte Murray. I don't think he can. He's going to need DeJounte Murray needs more ancillary help on a night-to-night basis, I feel, than Trae Young does on the offensive side of the basketball.
DeJounte Murray is not that far removed from being an all-star. Okay. And if you look
But
at the Eastern Conference, Jalen Brunson had an incredible year.
mm-hmm,
Tyrese Halliburton had an incredible year.
mm-hmm.
DeJounte Murray is not that far away from being that type of player. And I think if
Yeah,
you're trading Trae Young, you're getting assets back that you can then build out a better roster than what currently exists around this group because it's just simply not there.
I mean, and you can build a better roster, so that'd be the route because the reality of it is there's players that can be that far away, not that far away for their whole career. They spent their whole career being not there. Rod Strickland spent his whole career being not that far away. Just a little old, little history. So yeah, so I agree. He's not that far away from also, but does he actually become that? We don't know. If you're going to get move Trae Young, then you have to get a haul back that includes a primetime player, because the Hawks could remain not that far away if they put all their chips on DeJounte Murray.
Yeah, look, so these are the numbers. DeJounte Murray, 22.5 points, 5 boards, 6.5 assists. Jalen Brunson, 28 points, 3.5 rebounds, 6.5 assists. Tyrese Halliburton, 20 points, 4 boards, 11 assists. I'm not saying DeJounte Murray is on that level, but he's not that far from it. And if you are going out and you can say, let's move Trae Young and let's bring in a roster that gets us a stretch big, that gets us a wing. You've got Jalen Johnson. Let's get a 2 that more fluidly fits next to DeJounte Murray. Let's find a group that goes all in on defense. Let's build up our depth. That makes you on par with some of these other teams. Their secondary, if you see a leap from Jalen Johnson, you can be frisky in the Eastern Conference.
Okay, so fourth quarter playoff game, 12 seconds to go. You trust DeJounte Murray with the ball?
I trust him as much as I trust anybody else. I mean, look, we did not think, and this is the thing with the current league, Jalen Brunson wasn't that guy when he came into New York. I mean, I think it's fair. Jalen Brunson was on a similar perception level as DeJounte Murray was when he left San Antonio. Not right now. Yeah, when DeJounte Murray left San Antonio, I think Jalen Brunson, when he left Dallas, not right now, Jalen Brunson has made a leap, but that's the point. I think there's the capability that it's this addition by subtraction by seeing, let's see what DeJounte Murray can bring us. And again, the haul you're going to get for Trae Young, to me, you just can't keep running this back time and time again and saying this is going to continue to work.
You can't just keep. I agree. You can't just keep running it back and become middle of the road. Stay a middle of the road team. I agree with that sentiment, 100%.
All right, one quick note. I said they won 41 games. It was in a 72-game season, that 2021 campaign. They were still only the number 5 seed. I stand by that the conference finals was fraudulent. All right, we are going to be back on Friday. I apologize for the abbreviated episode here. Actually, I don't apologize because we're going to quickly run through, because I forgot to do it, our SimWorld prep games of the night. Real quick, Rick, you ready for that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so we kicked off or tipped off. Yacht Club goes to the Middle East. They pick up their 14th win of the season, 69-61. Darius McBride leads Yacht Club with 12 points, 5 assists there.
Africa down to Philadelphia Elite, who gets the dub. Shut it down. Ugly shooting knife, Africa. That's the defense of Philadelphia, 61-56.
Tough shooting night from Run DMV. They shoot 38% from the floor. Cooper Flag has 23, and the OGs take this one 73-64.
The Battle of Texas has been decided. Lone Star basketball loses by 5 to H-Town Hoopers in what was an exciting game, and Lone Star led for most of the game, but they lose it late, 80-75. Hoopers win. Rocky
Mountain picking up their 4th straight win, 26 points from Suno Chapa, not enough for Best Coast Ballers. Rocky Mountain 11-12 now after a 74-67 win.
And the Bay Area Breakers rebound and get us a dub over Beyond the Arch 77-59, led by Adonis Knight. 21 points. He's been on a roll lately.
All right, now we are wrapping up. We will be back tomorrow. Should be with our bright shining faces on a Friday. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, there are some games tonight on SimWorld TV, so make sure you're staying locked and loaded. And there's actually a Friday 1 p.m. game on SimWorld TV as well. So full slate coming at you. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Stay thirsty, my friends.